You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the guy who will decide where to go. You'll look up and down the streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may find any you may not find any you want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there, in wide open air. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew, just go right along. You'll start happening, too. Oh, the places you'll go. And the first place we are heading is here with Erin.
Oh, good evening. Thank you for joining us for our creativity workshop. Mike and Lana and I have some fun activities. We're going to begin with this handout, which we will follow to get our creative brains going. Lana, if you could help me by writing the brainstorm on the side whiteboard. We're going to begin getting our brains ready to do some creative thinking with a brainstorm. So the green on your handout is the directions for the brainstorm. I will read them aloud, and you can start thinking of, remember when we do a brainstorm, it's just any words that come to mind when I tell you the topic. So here's the topic. Think back to your favorite class or teacher from high school. What do you remember about this experience? I'll give you a couple seconds to think of a few things. And Lana will help us out by just jotting down some words or phrases that come to mind. Is anybody ready to share a favorite teacher or class from high school? What do you think of? What emotions does that bring to mind?
My favorite, you want to go?
I was just going to start spouting off words. So you go ahead.
My favorite class and teacher was Spanish class with Mrs. Lannon. And what I remember from that experience is that she can crow, and my nickname was Fred.
Spanish class.
Mm-hmm.
So let's write Spanish class, and she can
Crow.
like a
Yeah.
rooster crow.
Yeah.
Crow, Spanish, crow, Fred.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Any other words?
English.
English.
Favorite, constantly use the word ambiguous.
Ambiguous. Ooh, that's a good word. Any words?
Humor. Lots and lots of humor. Lots of drama and moving around the room. So,
Humor, drama, moving.
yeah.
My favorite thing about science class was the activities, the labs. It was fun, and going outside.
I was just going to add, so what? You
So
always
what?
say that.
Is that another thing your teacher would say? So what? Any words?
Passionate.
Passionate, excellent. Thank you for your help with those, Lana. We'll come back to the words later when we move into more of our activities. So now we're going to take some time and focus on the vocabulary associated with creativity. So the vocabulary, what is creativity? We all probably have our own idea. I'm going to go over 3 components that are outlined by Robert Sternberg and Wendy Williams. The source for this is on your handout, so you can do some more research on there. I'm going to go over the 3 components, and then I'd like you to visit with one another about what creativity means after you hear these 3 components. So 3 components of creativity and thinking creatively are, number 1, synthetic component, which is the ability to generate novel ideas. There's a little more to it, but that's generating novel ideas. I think that's one of the more general things. Another component that Sternberg and Williams have introduced is the analytic component of creativity. This is the ability to analyze and evaluate ideas. So that's another important thing. If we have creative thinkers, it's important to be evaluating those ideas for their usefulness or their application. So that brings us to the third component. The practical portion of creative thinking is the ability to translate theory and ideas into practical applications. So I was going to have each of you turn to your neighbor and review in your own words each a quick definition of creative thinking.
Okay. Creative thinking involves synthetic. You got it? Oh. Creative thinking involves being able to generate novel ideas,
So creating your own.
creating your own. And I won't do all of it. Something else. Since we only have 3 of us.
Evaluating your new ideas.
And then making sure you can use them in other areas so that they're applicable.
And can you discuss among yourselves, how does this relate to, before you had this definition, your original definition of kind of what you might have thought
Similar,
about?
like I had immediately like thinking, generating new ideas, novel
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
But I never thought about translating
I
to
didn't.
practical.
I agree. When I think of creativity, I kind of think of like improv and just coming up with stuff.
And almost impractical.
Yeah.
To a
Yeah.
degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say, I always think the word just kind of crazy and insane and,
Yeah.
you know, out there sometimes when I think of
Because I feel like when
creativity.
people are like that, you're like, oh, you're so creative. Right? You know?
And really, how practical is that?
Really?
So those are some good insights. So these experts have come up with a little bit more to it than maybe we think just walking around before we give it a lot of thought. So there, now that you've established an idea of creativity and what a few experts think of, what are some of the benefits we might have from having creative thinkers in the classroom? Can you read them to me from the handout, Jessica? Can you read one?
Yes, just one.
Yeah.
Innovation.